Speaker.
Order. Questions to the Prime Minister. Sandra Osborne.
Number 1, Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Speaker, I'm sure the whole House will join me in paying tribute to the 2 British servicemen who have lost their lives in Afghanistan in the last week. From 1st Battalion Coldstream Guards, Guardsman Michael Sweeney, and from 3rd Battalion the Rifles, Rifleman Mark Turner. We owe them an immeasurable debt of gratitude. They were both engaged to be married, and our thoughts are with their loved ones and their families. Mr. Speaker, it is because of all our brave men and women in our armed forces, and because of them, that our families, our communities and our country is safer and more secure. And I think at this time it is right to remember all who have given their lives in Iraq and Afghanistan, and all those who serve in our armed forces. I spoke to President Karzai and then President Obama yesterday, and our security forces in Sangin will be increased by around 500 from the Afghan security forces, providing greater security to the people of the region and support to our troops. Mr. Speaker, we are also sadly reminded today of the sacrifice made by members of our emergency services, and we send our condolences to the family and friends of the 2 brave firemen who died in Southampton last night. We pay tribute to the bravery and commitment demonstrated by all our emergency and public services. Mr. Speaker, this morning I had meetings with ministerial colleagues and others. In addition to my duties in the House, I shall have further such meetings later today.
Sandra Osborne.
May I add my condolences to all of those who have lost their lives in the service of their country. Mr. Speaker, if he is re-elected, will the Prime Minister guarantee that he will not take £6 billion out of the economy?
Mr. Speaker, the big issue is whether we can secure and assure the economic recovery. To withdraw £6 billion from the recovery now would put jobs at risk, put businesses at risk, and put our growth at risk. We cannot cut our way to recovery, but we could cut our way to double-dip recession. And, Mr. Speaker, in 2011 we will use the rise in national insurance to guarantee that we fund our policing, to guarantee that we fund our schooling, and to make sure that the health service guarantees of cancer care, of being able to see a GP at weekends and in the evenings, these are guarantees that will be kept because of the decisions we make.
David Cameron.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Can I join the Prime Minister in paying tribute to Guardsman Michael Sweeney and to Rifleman Mark Turner, who have been killed in Afghanistan in the last week? 280 British servicemen and women and MOD civilians have now lost their lives while serving in Afghanistan. And as we prepare for the end of this Parliament, we should remember the sacrifice that they and their families have made and acknowledge the huge debt that we all owe to our armed forces for the bravery that they show day after day. I also join the Prime Minister in paying tribute to James Shears and Alan Bannon, the 2 firefighters killed while tackling the fire in Southampton last night. As Mr. Speaker, this is the last Prime Minister's questions this Parliament. It is the last chance for this Prime Minister to show that he is accountable for the decisions he has made. Will he start by admitting that when British forces were sent into Helmand, they did not have sufficient helicopters to protect themselves and get the job done?
Mr. Speaker, I do not accept that in any operation to which we sent our troops, that our commanding officers gave wrong advice and told us that we shouldn't, told us they were properly equipped. At every time, in every operation, we ask our commanding officers, are we able to do this operation? And our commanding officers have said, yes, they can. So I have to say to him that we have done our best to equip our troops, and we will continue to do so. It is right that I take full responsibility, but I take the advice of our commanding officers, and advice of our commanding officers is very clear.
David Cameron.
Say that answer sums up this premiership. Takes no responsibility and always blames somebody else. Why can't he just admit something that everybody knows to be true? There weren't enough helicopters. Let's listen to Colonel Stuart Tootle, former commander of 3 Para. He said this: repeated demands for more helicopters fell on deaf ears. It increased risks for my paratroopers. But as he put it, the decision-makers, yes, the ministers, they weren't the ones driving into combat when they should have been flying into combat. And the Foreign Office Minister that he appointed, Lord Malloch Brown, said as late as last year, and I quote, "We definitely don't have enough helicopters." Presumably the Prime Minister is going to tell us all these people were just deceived.
Mr. Speaker, we have increased the number of helicopters in Afghanistan. We've increased the flying time by more than 100%. I think he should recognise that the Merlins were adapted so that they are now in Afghanistan. He should also recognise that the Chinooks were also adapted so that they too can be in Afghanistan. He should recognise that we have other helicopters in Afghanistan that are working, and we are part of an international operation in Afghanistan where we share equipment with our coalition partners. And I have to say to him, the amount of money spent in Afghanistan now is £5 billion a year. That is 1,000 extra vehicles. That is twice the number of flying time hours for our helicopters. And I think he should accept that our troops, for the operations that they are asked to undertake, have been given the equipment they need. That is the right position.
David Cameron.
Again, no answer. And I have to ask you this. Why?
Order. Government backbenchers must calm down. Mr. David Cameron.
And why should anyone believe this Prime Minister when he was the first in history to go in front of a public inquiry and not give accurate information about defence spending? So let me ask about another decision for which this Prime Minister ought to be accountable. In the last 13 years, he has robbed pension funds of £100 billion. His own welfare minister said this: "When Labour came to office, we had one of the strongest pension provisions in Europe, and now we probably have some of the weakest." Presumably he was deceived as well. Will the Prime Minister finally admit that robbing the pension funds was the wrong decision for Britain?
When he said there was no answer to the last question, it is him that is never given an answer on any single policy. And Mr. Speaker, as far as pension funds are concerned, we debated in this House 2 years ago, and the Shadow Chancellor put up the case that the dividend tax credit had affected the ability of pension funds to have money. I showed at that time that during the period before the stock market crash, what had actually happened was the resources of the pension funds had doubled. He lost his case when he put it to the House of Commons. It's no use trying to put it again. What we have done over these last 12 years, a pensioners' winter allowance initially opposed by the Conservative Party. What we are saying we will do is link pensions to earnings taken away by a Conservative government. What we have done is taken 2 million pensioners with a pension tax credit and given them dignity in retirement, again opposed by the Conservative government. And what we now have is a national concessionary fare scheme which give pensioners the chance to travel the country at risk under a Conservative government.
That, Mr. Speaker, is the sort of deception we're going to rebut in this election campaign every time it comes out. And he must be the only person in Britain who thinks robbing pension funds was a good idea. This is what his own adviser, who sat in number 10 Downing Street, said. This Prime Minister will go down in history as the one who destroyed our pension system. He just ignores what he doesn't want to hear, then he tries to cover up the consequences. People are finally starting to rumble Gordon Brown, and it serves him right. Presumably she was deceived as well. Let's take another decision for which the Prime Minister needs to be held to account. Yes?
Order. Honourable and right honourable members are shouting themselves hoarse before we've even got to the hustings. Members must calm down. Mr. David Cameron.
They were shouting out about national insurance contributions, and this is a question about national insurance contributions. The Prime Minister has made the decision to introduce a jobs tax which will kill the recovery. Now, this morning, on GMTV, he said that business leaders who oppose this decision have been deceived. Is the Prime Minister really telling us that he knows more about job creation than business leaders who employ almost 1 million people in this country?
Once again, I have to tell him about what happened during this recession and what we had to do to take this country out of recession. We had to nationalise Northern Rock, and they opposed it. We had to restructure the banks. Business supported us, but they opposed it. We had to take action to secure help for the unemployed. Businesses support the Future Jobs Fund. They opposed it. We had to take action to help homeowners. Business supported it. They opposed it. And we had to take action to help small business itself. And they opposed the funds that were necessary. Now, as far as national insurance is concerned, there is a choice. There is a clear choice. We can put the national insurance up and therefore protect our schools, our hospitals and our policing. Or we can do what the Conservatives traditionally do, and that's put our hospitals, police and our health service at risk.
The choice is Labour's decision to go on wasting money and then put up tax on every job in the country. These business leaders, this is what they said. Cutting government waste won't endanger the recovery, but putting up national insurance will. Now let me ask him again. Does he believe that these business leaders, including members of his own advisory council, does he believe they were deceived?
Mr. Speaker, we cannot cut our way to recovery, and that's why to withdraw £6 billion from the economy now is the wrong thing to do. And let us be clear, the Conservative policies would put jobs at risk immediately, would put businesses at risk immediately, and would put growth at risk immediately. As far as 2011 is concerned, we've got to make a decision. Do we want to maintain the improvement in our policing, our public services, our health service guarantees, and maintain investment in the schools? We say that that will cost that extra money on national insurance. They say no. Public must make up their mind. Do they want the public services to be maintained, or do we want the traditional Tory policy of putting our public services at risk?
This morning, the Prime Minister said these business leaders had been deceived. Since then, another 30 business leaders have come again and said, oh, they're right and they're wrong. And let me tell him, let me just read the Prime Minister what they're saying. Paul Walsh, the head of Diageo, on the Prime Minister's Business Council. No, not a Tory, one of his advisers. Yeah. Well, he's probably a Tory now, so are half the country. Let's hear what he had to say. It is not true to claim businesses have been deceived. National insurance is a tax on jobs. Let's hear from John Egan, former head of BAA. How can there be a deception? National insurance is a tax on jobs, pure and simple. Isn't the truth this? This Prime Minister would wreck the recovery by putting a tax on every job, on everyone earning over 20,000, a tax on aspiration, a tax on every business on the country. This government would wreck the recovery.
Mr. Speaker, it's the same old Conservative Party.
Order. Members must calm themselves. There are several weeks to go. The Leader of the Opposition was heard, and the Prime Minister will now be heard. Prime Minister.
Once again, he said nothing about the future. It's the same old Tories. Mr. Speaker, to think he was the future once. Mr. Speaker, the shortest ever waiting list in the health service. Mr. Speaker, 2.5 million more jobs since 1997. A sure start in every community in our country. More pupils are staying on at school than ever. More students going to university. More pensioners out of poverty. More dignity and security in retirement. And we are the government that has plans for the future. They have nothing to offer. Only a Labour government can do it.
Mr. Tom Clark.
Mr. Speaker, is my right honourable friend aware that at the weekend the BBC described Sudan as the hungriest place on earth? Given my right honourable friend's outstanding record on international development, both as Chancellor and as Prime Minister, will he use his influence with the international community to ensure that the hapless people of Darfur and that region are recognised for the suffering that they now endure.
Mr. Speaker, as long as there are children suffering, and as long as there are mothers who are dying in childbirth unnecessary, and as long as there are people who are young people not getting education in schools, we have a duty as a country to act. And I am proud, and I think my right honourable friend has done a great deal to push this forward, that we as a government have doubled the expenditure in real terms on overseas aid from the 0.26 that we inherited from the last government of GDP to 0.52 today. And that is a doubling of our investment in overseas aid that is unparalleled in the last 20 years in any country. And I have to say, I would hope there would be all-party consensus that spending on overseas aid can continue.
Mr. Nick Clegg.
Mr. Speaker, I'd obviously like to add my own expressions of sympathy and condolence to the family and friends of Rifleman Mark Turner from 3rd Battalion, the Rifles, and Guardsman Michael Sweeney from 1st Battalion, Coldstream Guards, who, having served so selflessly and bravely in Afghanistan, have lost their lives there this week. We owe them and everyone who has been killed and injured in Afghanistan indeed a huge debt of gratitude. And I'd also like to join in paying tribute to the bravery and sacrifice of James Shears and Alan Bannon, the two firefighters who lost their lives in Southampton last night. Mr. Speaker, today he are trying to fool people. Are trying to fool people that they're serious about political reform. Yet last week we had yet more proof that this is not true. The minutes of the Hayden Phillips cross-party talks on party funding. Here, in black and white, the Labour Party protecting their trade union paymasters, the Conservatives protecting their paymaster in Belize. Who do they think they're kidding? After sabotaging this deal, why should anyone trust a single word that they have to say on political reform?
Mr. Speaker, there is one person that prevented the Liberal and Labour proposal getting agreed by the Conservative Party. They withdrew from the talks. The reason is one name, Lord Ashcroft. That was the reason.
Order. The House must calm down. Members should save their voices for the conversations they'll need to have with their constituents in the coming weeks. Mr. Nick Clegg, order. Mr. Nick Clegg must be heard. Mr. Nick Clegg.
Speaker, that answer was ridiculous. The two parties are colluding together to block reform. Just last night, they colluded to block the most minimal reforms to our electoral system and to the other place, just like the way they came together to block our proposals to give people the right to sack corrupt MPs. They came together to block our proposals to clean up lobbying. Mr. Speaker, we all remember back in 1997, the hope and the promise of this new government. Look at them now. Look at them now. You failed. It's over. It's time to go.
Mr. Speaker, it seems like a speech in search of a question. Mr. Speaker, he cannot deny the fact that when we discussed electoral funding and political reform, the Labour Party and the Liberal Party agreed on the means to reform the political funding system. There was an agreement between our two parties. The Conservative Party pulled out of the agreement, and they pulled out on the recommendation of one person, the person who funds the Conservative Party, the person who has given £10 million to the Conservative Party, the person who has been offshore for many years, and that is Lord Ashcroft.
Linda Gilroy.
Plymouth has had some of the most significant new health investment under Labour. The first new dental hospital for 50 years, the first new medical hospital for 25 years. What plans does the Prime Minister have to protect the progress that has been made and the way in which waiting lists have plummeted?
Mr. Speaker, we have given every patient a guarantee that they will receive treatment within 18 weeks of seeing the doctor. That is a guarantee that we give personally to every patient, and in the next Parliament they can enforce it and go private or go to another health authority if it is not met. The opposition party refused to back that guarantee. We have given a guarantee to cancer patients that they will see a specialist within 2 weeks, and in the next Parliament they will be able to have their diagnostic test within 1 week. That is a guarantee we have given. The opposite party will not support that guarantee, even to cancer patients. And we have given a guarantee to general practitioners that they must see people in the weekends or in the evenings, as well as during ordinary working hours. And that is a guarantee that we are giving, but the opposite party refuses to support it. People will make up their mind in whose hands is the health service safe. It's in the Labour Party's hands.
Stephen Hammond.
The Prime Minister opened his election campaign yesterday by promising to campaign amongst real people, but he spent the whole day visiting the homes of staunch Labour supporters. Does he intend to spend the whole campaign visiting and moving from safe house to safe house?
But by the time I met them all, they were all staunch Labour supporters as a result of the message that we put to them. I have to say, yesterday I visited a number of places in Kent, and I asked people what the major issue affecting them is, and they said they wanted to secure the recovery. And I had to tell people that the Conservative Party taking £6 billion out of the economy would put the recovery at risk. The issue is very clear. Jobs with Labour, unemployment under the Conservative.
Mr Martin Linton.
Mr Speaker, will my right honourable friend heed the warning of the former Bank of England member David Blanchflower that if he followed the advice of the right honourable members for Witney and Tatton and took precipitate action to cut the deficit, it would lead not only to unemployment, but to rising poverty, social disorder and soup kitchens.
Mr Speaker, this is the central issue of this year. Will we secure the recovery? The Conservative Party says take £6 billion out of the economy and it doesn't matter. In fact, take £6 billion out of the economy now and there is more unemployment, more businesses go under and there is less growth. And I believe that when you look at what people are saying and doing in every other country, they're saying we've got to secure the recovery before we take any further action. Only the Conservative Party is saying take money out of the economy now. They have made a historic mistake.
Mr Bernard Jenkins.
Will the Prime Minister confirm the whole truth about helicopters, as confirmed by parliamentary answers from the Ministry of Defence, that he has already cut helicopter numbers from 522 to below 500 over the last 18 months, and under his plans, by 2020, there will be only 303 helicopters in Her Majesty's Armed Forces, a cut of 42%.
Mr Speaker, I'm sorry that he takes this view, because we have ordered, because we have ordered more helicopters for the future. We have reconditioned the Merlins to be in Afghanistan. We have repaired the Chinooks in such a way that they can now be used in Afghanistan. And we have increased the number of helicopter hours that are being flown by our troops. Now, that is the answer to those who say that not enough is being done. More helicopters, more helicopter hours in Afghanistan now.
Dennis McShane.
Has my right honourable friend had a chance to read the current issue of The Economist and yesterday's Financial Times, both of which, speaking for the City and Business, say if there's a change of government, Britain will find itself dangerously isolated in Europe? Does he further agree that we must work with Chancellor Merkel and other leaders and not get into bed and breakfast with extremist politicians with views on homosexuals, the Holocaust and the Waffen-SS that are unacceptable in our democracy?
Mr Speaker, if the Conservative Party had really changed, it would have changed its position on Europe. But it's the same old Conservative Party moving further and further to the extreme of Europe. Can't form an alliance with Chancellor Merkel or with President Sarkozy or with the centre-right Christian Democrats parties in Europe, so they've got to go into alliances with the most extreme elements of Europe. And the latest thing they did was vote against the transfer of information to deal with the problem of tax havens, exactly the sort of policy that Lord Ashcroft would want them to support.
What did the Chancellor mean when he said that the job losses resulting from the national insurance hike would be manageable? How many is manageable?
I'll tell the Conservative Party about jobs. Jobs is helping young people. Jobs is helping young people to get into work. The 200,000 jobs created by the Future Jobs Fund now and over the next few months. Jobs is also helping young people stay on in work with getting work experience in education, the summer school leavers guarantee we're giving. And Jobs is helping small businesses through this difficult time with the time to pay, with the reduction of business rates and with the help we're giving them now. Take $6 billion out of the economy now and you put the recovery at risk. Take $6 billion out of the economy and that means that thousands of jobs would then go.
Mr. Ian Causey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister is aware of the effect of the retrospective introduction of business rates on companies operating in various ports around the country, including Goole in my own constituency. 5 years after the planned implementation, the Valuation Office Agency has still to agree assessments with many companies. One, Scotline, went out of business after being summoned for a rates bill of £700,000, which was reduced to £114,000 on appeal. Will the Prime Minister meet with the Chancellor and the Department for Communities and Local Government and get a fair and equitable solution to keep jobs in our ports safe?
I'm grateful to my honourable friend. He has always been a persistent advocate of the ports and the jobs that are created as a result of that. And I have to say to him, I'm very happy to meet him to talk about this issue and to talk about what we have done, which is equal interest-free payments that are instalments paid over an unprecedented 8 years. I'm happy to talk to him about what more we can do to help.
Michael Fabricant.
As my right honourable friend has already said, Paul Walsh, the Chief Executive of Diageo and a member of the Prime Minister's own Management Committee, Business Advisory Committee, has said, I don't feel at all deceived, he says. This isn't about politics. It's my firm view that the proposed national insurance increase is a tax on jobs. So why does the Prime Minister think he's got it wrong?
Mr. Speaker, I've said the country has to make a choice. The Conservative Party have made their choice. But I say to the country, if we want to maintain and improve our schools, if we want to maintain and improve our policing, record numbers of policing in this country, neighbourhood policing, and if we want to ensure the cancer guarantee, the GP guarantee and other guarantees in our National Health Service, then that has to be paid for. And I believe the country will make the choice in favour of maintaining and improving our public services. And I think, once again, the Conservative Party are exposed as the party that opposed public service improvements in our country.
Mr. Robert Waring.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Over the years, there's been a continual drift away from the imposition of direct taxes to indirect taxes. And as the Prime Minister knows, these bear most heavily on those who can afford least. And I wonder if the Prime Minister will agree with me that it is becoming time, when we went back to the traditional Labour Party policy on taxation, and that is to redistribute wealth in favour of poorer people. And I would like to see him, in this general election, say that he's going to see that there will be direct taxes imposed on the billionaire rich, who should be paying the real burden of taxation in this country.
Mr. Speaker, there is one point on which I would agree with him, and that is the importance of tax credits that have helped lower income and middle income people get out of poverty and secure their livelihoods. The Conservatives are not interested in tax credits. 6 million families in this country receive tax credits. 20 million children and mothers and fathers benefit from tax credit. One of the cuts the Conservatives propose for this year is to cut child tax credits for middle-income families. Now, that would do more to push people into lower-income groups than anything else. They should change their policy and help middle-income families in this country.
Mr. Damien Green.
The Prime Minister once notoriously promised British jobs for British workers. Can he confirm that the latest official figures produced this morning show that the number of UK-born private sector workers is several hundred thousand lower today than it was in 1997?
Mr. Speaker, net migration to this country has been falling as a result of actions that we've been taking. And it's fallen in the last 3 years. And it is falling because there are more people here locally getting the jobs that are available. And I think the Conservative Party should think twice about their policy on quotas on migration, because the very businesses they are quoting want to be able to bring people in this country to do the jobs that are necessary. We propose the Australian point system on migration. Their policy of a quota on immigration without giving a number would do great damage to British business.
To Doug Naismith.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. As I know my right honourable friend is aware, the last 10 years has seen an unprecedented increase in support for science and technology in this country. But will he agree with me that now is not the time to cut investment in science research and education, for it is in these areas that will ensure our future economic success and economic growth?
Mr. Speaker, record investment in education, record investment in universities, record investment in science in our country, record investment in new innovation in our country. That is the record of our Labour government, and I'm proud to tell people that we are the party that supports industry in this country.
John Mason.
Given the allegations surrounding Glasgow City Council and the demands for an inquiry, and I believe that inquiry is supported by former leader Stephen Purcell and by Labour businessman Willie Hawkey. Will the Prime Minister support such an investigation, or is he afraid that there's something to hide?
Yes. Mr. Speaker, he came down to this Parliament and he spent most of his time voting with the Conservative Party. He should go back to Scotland. He should go back to Scotland and explain why, instead of voting for jobs, he's voting with the Conservative Party in Parliament.
Order. 10-minute rule motion.